Burger and fry. Crispiness. Thickums. Juiciness. 54 grams of protein. Burger and fry.
I don't get bored while losing body fat. And today I'm going to show you one of my secret weapons. How to turn the leanest ground beef you can buy into 7 completely different, delicious, high protein, low calorie meals. And yes, they are juicy and not drier than the Sahara. And they put losing body fat on easy mode. And the first one I'm going to show you is the one I make the most.
Burger and fry.
I eat this burger and fries meal at least once a week. Sometimes twice, sometimes 3 times. And it is a staple in my diet because it is so much food. It's so damn good. And it's only 634 calories with 54 grams of protein. So first I'm going to show you how to make a 19 calorie Big Mac sauce. That's going to last all week and you're going to want to put it on everything. We're starting with our base of Greek yogurt and cottage cheese, then the sweetness of the ketchup, the bold sharp pop of the Dijon mustard, pickle juice, that's really going to give it the Big Mac vibe, and then this mixture of nutritional yeast, paprika, sea salt, black pepper. Now you're going to blend till smooth, and any sauce you see in this video stays fresh for about 7 to 10 days in the fridge. So now we're going to make those fries. You're going to take your russet potatoes. These are my favorite for fries just because they don't have a super high water content and they're just a resilient potato. So the potatoes you see here, I've already washed and dried in the sink to get any of the dirt off the outside because we're going to be eating the skin. And so you're going to cut off the ends of each of your potatoes. And now we introduce this little gadget here that is a lifesaver that I got off Amazon. It was only 18 bucks and it allows you to cut your fries in a few pounds. I think if this is the fry version of a slap chop, but you'll see here the fries are cut perfectly. And so I can cut 3 potatoes worth of fries in 30 seconds max. I think it is definitely worth it. Later on in the video, I show you how to make crinkle cut fries. And so I have to use a hand cutter for that. But if they had a crinkle cut version of this little slap fry chop thingy, definitely would get it. Now all our fries are done. You're going to grab your air fryer. And if you're new to the channel, you're going to be like, Zach, what are you doing here? Why are you adding these raw potatoes to the air fryer? Aren't you going to like toss them in oil and seasoning and all that good stuff? No. And I'll keep this short because this isn't a potato video, but we want to make sure we are conscious of how much oil we're using in the recipe because we want it to stay macro friendly. And using a ton of oil can bring up the calories of the fries. So after tons of trial and error, I realized that adding my oil at the end of the cooking process yields a better tasting fry. And cooking them raw just gets them nice and crispy, still cooks the middle. And then when we add the oil at the end, it sticks on the outside, you get all the flavor, and then the seasoning sticks so much better as well. So now once your fries are done, you're going to add them to a bowl. And we're going to add that oil now. I love to use avocado oil, spray with a few sprays, then season with your sea salt, garlic powder, and you're going to toss until it's evenly coated on the fries. These are the best. If you've made them, you know. Easiest 0 brain cell fries you'll ever make and the most macro friendly. And so I showed this whole potato process so where it would make sense. You would be doing all this in your air fryer while you make your burger, so everything comes out hot at the same time. So now you're going to take your 96.4 lean ground beef, split into 3 even sized patties. And you're going to add to your pan that is already preheated on a 7 out of 10 heat. You want to add your patties to the pan. You hear that so then we can start to build that crust, aka the Maillard reaction. And one big overlooked part of making sure your 96.4 lean ground beef stays super juicy is make sure your ground beef is fresh out of the fridge. We want it super cold before we add it to the pan. We don't want it going to room temperature. This is going to help with the process of them not overcooking because 96.4 is such a lean ground beef. And so now we season them once they're on the pan. This is going to help them not pull too much moisture out as well. Sea salt, garlic powder, and yellow mustard. Trust the process. That's going to help lock in a lot of the juiciness and flavor too. So once you have a nice Maillard reaction on the bottom, flip your burgers, and then now you're going to try and get that sear on the other side. And this whole burger video is teaching you a lot of principles of working with 96.4 lean ground beef. And the next is either using a beef or chicken bone broth to add juiciness back to the burgers. The burgers actually get steamed and then retain more of that moisture. So once you see a lot of the bone broth has now been soaked up by the burgers, you'll see them actually expand in size. You're going to add your 2% American cheese slices on top. And if you watch my grocery haul video, you know that the 2% American cheese slices are worth the extra 15 calories instead of the fat-free ones. Add a cover back on top to melt, and now you have these juicy burgers that will taste like 80-20 lean ground beef but have the macros of 96.4 lean ground beef. Now you're gonna add your fries to your basket. It's time to build your burger. We have a 150 cal brioche bun that I toasted just face down on a pan. Add your 19 cal Big Mac sauce, fresh iceberg lettuce, fresh chopped red onion, fresh chopped pickles, slice of tomato. Always salt and pepper your tomato, your burger patty, toasted top bun with a little bit more Big Mac sauce. And now you have this massive burger and fries meal, only 634 calories, 54 grams of protein. And if you just want the burger, this is only 400 calories, 48 grams of protein. Enjoy, my friends. For the past 10 years, I've been using this one secret ingredient to make my 96.4 lean ground beef taste like it is 80-20 lean ground beef. And what that does is I'm eating delicious ground beef for half the calories and a lot more protein. And in my last YouTube video, I shared a grocery haul and one of the ingredients really stood out with everybody. and that is bone broth, beef and chicken bone broth. And Kettle on Fire saw this and they wanted to sponsor today's video. And they are the GOAT of this category. They are the gold standard of bone broth. It tastes amazing because it's made with 100% grass-fed and finished beef bones and organic free-range chicken bones, slow simmered for maximum nutrient extraction, and it adds so much flavor. And when you look at the macros, it is straight protein. It is literally the easiest way to add protein to anything. And Kettle on Fire was nice enough to hook me up with an exclusive discount for you guys, 20% off your order. All you got to do is use FDL20 at checkout. The link is below, or you can just scan this QR code. Thanks again to Kettle on Fire for sponsoring today's video.
Oh. Cheesy taco rice. That's crazy. Little chip and dip action. Look at that right there.
So next up on the menu, we have a meal prep MVP. This cheesy taco rice is insane. 1/4 of this pan is only 665 calories, 55 grams of protein. And this pan is deep. And what you saw earlier on the plate when I was eating it was like maybe 1/6 of the pan. So you get a lot of food. So first we're gonna make our high protein Taco Bell sauce. We're starting with our combination of Greek yogurt and cottage cheese. If you've made any of my sauces, please let everybody know in the comments below that they should trust this combination because it is such an amazing base for low calorie, high protein sauces. And then we're gonna flavor it with a Taco Bell sauce and taco seasoning. And then we're gonna blend till smooth. Make sure you blend for about 60 to 90 seconds. Once your sauce is smooth, add to your storage container of choice. I use these deli containers. They're my favorite. And like I said earlier, these sauces stay fresh for about 7 to 10 days in the fridge. And welcome to the stage, our MVP ingredient of this video, our 96.4 lean ground beef. I mean, just look at these macros. 4.5 fat, 24 grams of protein for lean ground beef. When I hear people complain about 93.7 lean ground beef drying out, I'm like, yo, I just laugh because 93.7 lean ground beef is child's play compared to 96.4 lean ground beef. Don't you worry, if you apply everything you learned in this video, your 96.4 lean ground beef will be baffling how juicy and delicious it is. So now we come back to 2 principles that you've learned earlier in the video. Make sure your ground beef is super cold, fresh out of the fridge. And then also your pan is already preheated on a 7 out of 10 heat. You want a nice sizzle right when you put it on the pan. And now the third technique, you need to smash your ground beef into the pan. Flatten it as much as possible. You want a lot of surface area on the pan to get that Maillard reaction, aka that nice flavorful crust. And then because most of the heat goes to the middle of the pan, I cut it in half and then I put the ground beef towards the middle of the pan. So now we're just gonna let that sit for about 3 to 4 minutes until we see it start to brown up the sides. You see not much liquid has left the ground beef yet. So now we're gonna flip, you see a beautiful crust, and you're gonna let it sit on that side for another 2 to 3 minutes. Now you're gonna break up your ground beef. You still want it super pink on the inside. And here's how we're gonna bulk up this recipe to give it a ton of volume without a lot of extra calories. Because most of these one pan rice recipes are literally just rice and meat. And so they're usually insanely high calories. So we're gonna make sure a lot of bites for not a lot of macros. So we're gonna add our frozen corn and our diced orange, yellow, and green peppers and our diced white onion. What this is also going to do, besides adding a lot of food volume for not a lot of extra calories, is the natural moisture within the vegetables is going to transfer into the lean ground beef. So even if we lose a little bit of the pink of the ground beef, it's still being provided with a lot of moisture and juices to then not dry out throughout this whole process. So now we're going to add our taco seasoning. As you can see throughout each recipe, I have no allegiance to any taco seasoning mix. I don't really use one specific brand. The amount in each packet will vary. So you'll see here 5 servings, 5 grams per serving. That's 25 grams total. Some are over 30 grams. We want 25 grams of taco seasoning mix. So that's just one packet of this. So keep that in mind. And then also we're going to give this a little bit extra of a punch. We're going to have 1/2 teaspoon of cumin and 1/2 teaspoon of chili powder and a couple of big pinches of sea salt. Now you're going to mix that all together and you're going to add your drained and rinsed canned black beans. So add those in there and mix together. This is going to add a little bit of extra fiber, protein, volume to the recipe. And the sneaky ingredient to this whole flavor profile is 5 grams of a Worcestershire sauce. This just helps enhance all the flavors in the recipe. And now we're going to add half our carton of our Kettle on Fire bone broth. Like you guys saw earlier in the video, this stuff is amazing. Such an easy way to rehydrate your lean ground beef, add a ton of flavor and add a lot of protein with really 0 effort. So like I said, you're going to add half your carton in there, then 227 grams of tomato sauce, and then 1 10-ounce can of diced tomatoes with green chilies. This is basically Rotel. So what we're trying to build here with all the liquid ingredients going into the pan is basically a flavored cooking liquid that the rice and the ground beef are all going to soak up and retain so much flavor. So now we're going to add 185 grams of long grain white rice. This is uncooked and rinsed. And why is it important to rinse your rice? It's multiple reasons. Similar to what you guys have learned whenever I wash my shredded cheese. I wash off all the extra starch that helps it not stick together in the bag, but then now allows it to have great cheese pulls. It's very similar to this same process with rice. When you wash the rice, you're washing off all that extra starch, and then now you're left with rice that when you cook it, it's not going to clump together. It's not going to get all gummy. And then when you reheat it, it's not going to clump together. It's going to reheat super well and just fluff right back up. So wash wash your rice, it only takes a few seconds. And now mix it all together. So here's a super important part. You want your pan to be hot enough to where you see little bubbles in the middle like this. You're gonna lower your pan from a 7 out of 10 heat to now about a 4 out of 10 heat. You're gonna add a cover on top and you're just gonna let it cook for about 12 to 15 minutes. We only wanna mix about 1 to 2 times throughout this whole process because that's gonna mess with the texture. So after about 12 to 15 minutes, you're gonna do your first mix. You're gonna see a texture similar to this where it's absorbed a lot of that liquid, but there still is a lot of liquid. Add that cover back on top and cook for about another 10 to 15 minutes. And then you should have a super thick texture like this, a little bit of liquid left over. You're just gonna move it around with your spatula for another 2 to 3 minutes just to cook that off. But be careful not to cook off too much of it. And you'll know you did a great job when you're left with a texture like this. So now you're gonna add 84 grams of your Colby Jack cheese on top. I should have washed it. I didn't. It melted good. It could have melted better, but nonetheless, melt it with a cover on top. And a lot of recipes like this, add it to the oven to melt the cheese. Unnecessary complexity. Just add a cover on top. Then you're gonna add your toppings, your fresh sliced jalapenos with the seeds for a little bit of kick. Then that 17 cal Taco Bell sauce from earlier. Drizzle that all on top. Now we're gonna add 3 scoops of light sour cream and then some fresh cilantro on top. And then now you're left with this massive pan of deliciousness. Enjoy, my friends. Chopped cheese, loaded fries. This whole bowl is only 650 calories, 60 grams of protein.
Unbelievable. Guys, and don't worry, the fries, super crispy.
So next up on the menu, we have chopped cheese loaded fries. This is gonna look very similar to the burgers and fries meal in the first recipe, but sometimes I don't want a bun and I just wanna eat more fries, but I want the same macros. So I'm gonna show you how to throw it into a bowl and add a nice twist to the recipe to give it its own flair. So first up, we're gonna take our gold standard of potatoes for macro-friendly french fries, which is russet potatoes. We've already washed and dried the outside, and now we're gonna cut them up into fries. And you're gonna see here, I'm cutting off the tip and then I'm cutting off the outsides of the fries. I normally just eat the whole fry, but for this video, I want the fries to look super duper pretty. And you're gonna see this little gadget I'm using here. This is called a crinkle cutter. 10 to 15 bucks off Amazon. One of the best purchases I've ever made. I've been using this thing for years. I love crinkle cut fries. The little crevices in the crinkles actually allow for a better distribution of flavor, crispiness. And so for my fries, normally I just eat the outside skin. I don't care how pretty they are, but for this video, we're gonna be cutting off the outside skin of the potatoes. And after this whole process, we're left with about 750 grams of crinkle cut fries. I mean, just look at these things. One thing to keep in mind whenever you're cutting your fries, the longer you let them sit out once cut at room temperature, aka without the skin on, exposed to the air, they will oxidize, aka change colors. That can change the flavor profile a little bit, so make sure to add these to the air fryer relatively quickly after you cut them. And so once cut, add these to the air fryer. Doesn't really matter if they're covering each other a little bit. We're going to shake them throughout, and we're going to do the same concept we did in the first video where we're going to air fry them raw dog. No oil, no seasoning, trust the process. Air fry these on 400 degrees Fahrenheit for about 20 to 25 minutes, and then after about 10 to 12 minutes, they should look like this. You're going to shake them around and add them back to the air fryer. And then once done, they should look beautifully golden like this. And remember, it's just potatoes, no oil, no seasonings, nothing. And the beauty and science of this is when potatoes are hot, they can soak up about 25% of their weight in oil. Then when we add it after instead of during cooking, where it could cook off or be soaked up, it doesn't get cooked off during that process. It actually sticks to the outside of the potatoes. And then when we add our sea salt, garlic powder, it sticks perfectly. And one thing to note also, we're about to make our burgers. You'd be making these fries while we're making the burger. I just wanted to show it all back to back just because it's easier to follow that way. So now we're gonna make our smash burger. You're gonna add to a preheated pan on a 7 out of 10 heat your white onion. And so what you wanna do here is spread it evenly across your pan. We want as much of the onion in contact with the pan as possible. Just let it cook. This is very similar to when we're cooking our ground beef. We flatten the ground beef just so we have more surface area to get that Maillard reaction. And so then once you start to get a little bit of color, then we start to move it around a little bit. And then you're gonna flatten it again to make sure as much of the onion is touching the pan as possible. Let it sit, let it cook, and then move the whole batch back to the middle of the pan. Now you're gonna add a big pinch of sea salt, a splash of kettle and fire bone broth, and this combination of sea salt and the bone broth paired with how we've charred the onions so far is how we're not going to have to use any oil to make these caramelized onions. And then adding a cover on top to help them steam is how we take these boring white onions and caramelize them with no oil whatsoever. That now you can add to anything to add a ton of flavor, but we're going to use them on our smash burgers now. On that same pan you cook the caramelized onions, we're going to save some of that flavor for our 964 lean ground beef. Because I want you guys to make these recipes and eat delicious food while losing weight, I made you this free recipe book. It has all 7 recipes from this video. Each one has detailed macros, beautiful picture, recipe video, super detailed ingredients and directions, all in one place, and it's 100% free. Link will be in the description below, or you can just scan this QR code on the screen. Now let's make that chopped cheese. You guys remember the drill. Take your ground beef straight out of the fridge right when you're about to cook it. We want it nice and cold. You're gonna form each one into 5.3 ounce patties, and you're gonna add to your pan, which is still on a 7 out of 10 heat. When you add it on, you should hear a nice sizzle. middle, and you're gonna use a burger press or whatever you have to press this as flat as possible. This is gonna help us get that Maillard reaction, and that's super important for a 96.4 lean ground beef, which is super lean, lacks the fats, which provide a ton of flavor to ground beef. And so we need to use every trick possible to make it super flavorful. And that's why it might seem pointless to smash these if you're just gonna chop them up later into a chopped cheese. But we're doing this for a ton of added flavor, even if we're gonna chop it up. What you see on the pan right now is 1 pound of 96.4 lean ground beef. I thought I was gonna make 2 pounds, but I ended up just making 1, which makes 2 of these chopped cheese loaded fries bowls. So now you're gonna season each patty with sea salt, garlic powder, and yellow mustard. Yes, yellow mustard. It helps get a nice sear once flipped, but then also it locks in a ton of the juiciness and flavor. Then add your caramelized onions on top. And once these burgers have been cooking for about 3 to 4 minutes, you're gonna flip to have a beautiful crust once done. And if you watched my previous video, my grocery haul, you saw that I love 2% American cheese. It's just worth it for only 45 calories. It melts so much better. And you're gonna add a cover on top to melt the cheese. And one thing to note, if the burgers did look dry right now, I would add a little bit more bone broth to the pan and then add a cover on top to help rehydrate them, but they still look super juicy, so I didn't have to do that. These should look insane. They are a cheat code. I almost feel bad chopping them up, but we're gonna make a chopped cheese. So what you're gonna do is just chop them up into smaller pieces. You'll start to see the flavors start to mend together. We have the ground beef, the cheese, the onions. And so once you have all your ground beef chopped up, it's time to build our bowl. You're gonna add half your batch of fries to the bowl. And then you're gonna add half your batch of chopped cheese, your 19 cal Big Mac sauce. We learned how to make this in the first recipe. More of our leftover caramelized onions, diced Roma tomatoes, diced red onions, diced dill pickles, sesame seeds. And now you have this massive bowl of delicious food, only 615 calories, 58 grams of protein. Crazy what a few ingredient swaps and cooking techniques can do to having you be able to eat delicious food and lose weight. Enjoy, my friends.
If you don't remember these, you're too young for me. Try these and see if they were as good as we remembered them to be. They're probably worse than they were growing up because, oh, this already looks kind of gross. Looking like chickpeas in there. All the instructions we got. Have 2 minutes on high. That's what it looks like. Oh, oh. I mean, look at that. Am I gonna burn my mouth? That's, what? What? Tastes like water. What kind of meatballs are these supposed to be? Okay, meatballs made with chicken and beef. Beef and chicken. I don't remember SpaghettiOs being this nasty. Look at that. Tried to make it my own way. SpaghettiOs, but for grown-ups. This is not even close. 50 grams of protein, 17 grams of protein. Unreal. This is how this should be.
I grew up on SpaghettiOs, and I am just confused. I don't know if it was the fact that they've changed the formula and they're just not as good as they used to be, or they were just always terrible and I've just matured in my palate and I can finally realize it. That's a little tangent. Let's make some SpaghettiOs and meatballs. First, we're gonna start with our base of 1 pound of 96.4 lean ground beef and our yellow mustard. And if you're sick of seeing yellow mustard in these recipes, I promise you, you will not taste it. It is such a flavor amplifier for this lean ground beef. Like I said prior, we don't have a lot of fat to play with that holds on to a lot of flavor, so we need to find other ways to do that. Then you're gonna add 15 grams of Parmesan, 8 grams of fresh parsley, plus 2 grams of fresh basil, 3 cloves of minced garlic. Then you're gonna add a big pinch of sea salt, a little bit smaller of a pinch of black pepper, and then about 5 seconds of doing this of oregano. Mix that all together. Make sure to be patient while doing this. We want even distribution of all the ingredients. And you're gonna see a technique here. What I like to do when I'm mixing this is I like to force all the ingredients to the middle to where then once I mix, it moves back out to the outside and it just evenly mixes that way. So you'll see with my thumb, I push all the ingredients toward the middle, and then as I move it around, they move back towards the outside, and then it mixes evenly. And now you're gonna take this mixture and you're gonna form it into 45 mini meatballs. And so you're gonna take a little pinch at a time, add it into your hands, roll it into a meatball, and you're gonna repeat this process. And remember, this doesn't have to be perfect. It can be 40, it can be 50. It's just the idea. We want mini meatballs. Add these to the fridge to cool again, and now we're gonna make our base sauce for the SpaghettiOs. Preheat your pan on a 6 out of 10 heat. Then you're gonna add 65 grams of tomato paste and 3 cloves minced garlic. You just wanna get a light browning on these. Then after about 2 minutes, you're gonna add 225 grams of your marinara. Pick the lowest calorie one you can find. It's usually the fat content to look at to make sure to see if it's low calorie or not. Then you're gonna add 4 cups of your beef bone broth, and then some onion powder, don't be shy, and then 2 grams of 0-cal sweetener just to balance it out and give it a little pop of sweetness. Then mix and make sure it's all evenly combined. Add a cover on top and simmer for about 12 to 15 minutes. And so after about 12 to 15 minutes, it should have reduced and thickened up a little bit. And now we're gonna make this super authentic, and we're gonna add our ring pasta. I found this off Amazon. You can use whatever pasta you want. I paid too much much money for this ring pasta. I don't know about you, I like to eat with my eyes, so I want it to look the part. Now you're gonna add the cover on top and cook these for about 10 to 15 more minutes. Now you're gonna preheat another pan on a 7 out of 10 heat, and you're gonna add your mini meatballs on there. Let them cook on one side for about 3 to 4 minutes. Then you're gonna move them around because it's hard to just flip all 45 of them, because you're gonna add these to the SpaghettiOs and they're gonna cook a little bit more, so you don't want to overcook them right now. So once your SpaghettiOs have thickened up a lot, you can see the ring pasta is very close to al dente. You're gonna add your mini meatballs, add Parmesan, nutritional yeast to add a cheesy flavor and more protein. Mix that all together, turn the pan on low, add a little bit more Parmesan and fresh basil on top. This makes 3 big bowls, only 510 calories, 48 grams of protein. Enjoy, my friends.
Guys, we have egg roll in a bowl ramen. Only 522 calories, 41 grams of protein. That was a big bite. I'm freaking sweating right now. Wow, guys, this is incredible.
So next up on the menu, we have egg roll in a bowl ramen. This recipe is, man, I would say it's up there in the top 3 of my most recreated recipes of all time. I'm gonna show on the screen little of all kinds of recreations, but this is a beloved recipe. You can't beat it. So first up, and you're gonna see a theme throughout this video, we love to use white onions and we love to brown caramelize them without a lot of oil. So you're gonna add them to your pan on a 7 out of 10 heat. Add the cover on top to help them steam while they're also charring. Once you take that cover off, RIP my camera, but you should start to see some nice browning. Now we're gonna add 150 grams of our shredded carrots. Mix those in there. We want them to soften and slightly char. Now we're gonna add 1 pound of our 96.4 lean ground beef. Remember, fresh out of the fridge. We want it nice and cold, and you should know the drill by now. We're gonna press it into the pan. We're trying to get it as flat as possible and give it a lot of surface area to give it that Maillard reaction. So once you've achieved that Maillard reaction, you should flip and see a nice crust has formed, and then you're gonna let it cook on that side for another 2 to 3 minutes just so we can get a Maillard reaction on that side. And so after those 2 to 3 minutes, you're gonna break it up into smaller pieces and start to combine everything into the pan. Now you're gonna add 60 grams of your chicken bone broth. You could use beef bone broth as well. This is just gonna help rehydrate the meat and then also help caramelize the onion and soften the carrots. Then you're gonna add 3 cloves of minced garlic. I use this from a jar, don't be a hater. And then 3 grams of minced ginger. You could use ginger powder if you want, but I've noticed that raw ginger really packs a punch and adds a ton of flavor. It's just annoying because I just don't use it that much. But if you make this recipe a ton, definitely worth to have in the kitchen. Now we're gonna add 500 grams of a coleslaw mix. This is just a bag mix I got from the store. I love to use convenience when it makes sense. And the bag of coleslaw mix is actually cheaper than buying all the individual ingredients. And when you add it to the pan, it's gonna seem like there's so much food in this pan, but when you add a cover on top, it's gonna soften the cabbage and really reduce the size. And so as you can see, it has indeed reduced in size. And now you're gonna mix everything together. RIP my camera again. Now we're gonna add 28 grams of reduced sodium soy sauce, 7 grams of rice vinegar, 4 grams of toasted sesame oil, 3 big pinches of sea salt, 2 big pinches of black pepper. Mix that all together. It should be looking insane. Still super juicy, and you could honestly eat it like this. This is just an egg roll in a bowl, and the macros are absolutely insane. But we're gonna take it to the next level, and we're gonna make it an egg roll in a bowl ramen. And as you guys know, I like to use regular products that regular people use and then make them macro friendly. And so we're just gonna take 2 of the most popular ramen that you'll find at the store that is less than $1, and we're not gonna use the chicken flavor packet in there, and we're just gonna use the noodles. So just cook them per the instructions on the packet. Be sure to cook it slightly under al dente because it's gonna cook a little bit more in the pan. So once cooked and drained, you're gonna add your ramen noodles to your pan, and you're gonna mix them all together, and then you are left with this insane meal. Now you're gonna add some fresh green onion on top, but we're not done yet. We're gonna make a low-cal, high-protein bang-bang sauce to put on top of this ramen. You're gonna add 113 grams of your plain non-fat Greek yogurt, 28 grams of your honey, and I don't harp on this enough. Make sure you are scraping out all the ingredients whenever you put them into a bowl and you add them into a recipe. No ingredients or macros left behind. Then you're gonna add 15 grams of sriracha to give it that punch, and then we're gonna finish it off with 4 grams of rice vinegar. Gonna really make it pop. And then now you're just gonna mix this all together until super smooth, and then in just a few minutes you have this insanely delicious low-calorie bang bang sauce. Add it on top of your ramen, add some sesame seeds. 1/3 of this pan is only 522 calories, 41 grams of protein. Trust me when I say it is a lot of food. We're all about big serving sizes here. But don't just take my word for it. Look what Sarah said. She loved it, super high volume, and great if you're on a cut. Enjoy, my friends. My goal is always the same. I just want you guys to make these recipes and transform your diet and reach your goals in the easiest way possible. And that's why I created the one place where you can find all of my recipes all in one place, the easiest way to make them. When you click on a recipe, you have all the full macros in great detail. You have the ability to switch between metric and imperial. You can scale the serving sizes. And if you're just sick of looking at your phone, open up your laptop and you can access all the recipes there. Click on the watch video. You can watch the full video of the whole recipe. And then you can just scroll this bar to whatever part you want to watch again, or just skip ahead to. And then you have all these categories with endless options. And then if you just want to search for recipes, search pizza, bam. Search cheesecakes, bam. And just want to search for an ingredient, chicken, bam. Thousands of our members love it already, and I think you will too. Let's get back to the video.
Oh my word. this is gonna blow your mind. This is so good. All right, I gotta get a bite. Oh, this is a freaking flavor bomb, guys. Oh, unreal, look at that. Let's go. Oh, boy.
Next up on the menu, we have the cheesy Bolognese crispy potato bake. Cheesy, crispy, tons of flavor, and most importantly, the macros are incredible. Only 451 calories, 40 grams of protein. For this recipe, you could go with the russet potatoes, but I went with Yukon Gold potatoes for this one. And you're gonna notice for this recipe, I'm doing it different than the previous ones for my potatoes. Because Yukon Gold potatoes have a higher water content, they're less starchy, they're naturally more of a creamy potato. We're actually gonna oil and season them prior to air frying. Russet potatoes tend to soak up a lot of the oil while cooking, and then also don't hold on to the seasoning very well. But for the Yukon Gold potatoes, since they do not soak up as much of the oil tends to stay on the outside, the seasoning sticks better, and it helps them crisp up a lot more. While the russet potatoes will just kind of crisp up on their own since they have a higher starch content. So we're going with sea salt, paprika, garlic powder, basil, oregano, and 8 grams of Parmesan cheese. This is going to give a nice cheesy flavor, but then also help the potatoes crisp up. So now you're going to toss your potatoes, make sure all the oil and seasonings mix together evenly. Now you're going to add these to your air fryer, and you're going to air fry on 400 degrees Fahrenheit for about 15 to 20 minutes or until golden. So now you have your pan preheated on a 7 out of 10 heat. You're gonna add your green and red peppers, 150 grams of diced onion, and then 150 grams of diced carrots. Add a cover on top to help them steam and soften up. Then we're gonna expedite this process even more by adding our chicken bone broth. Keep mixing. You're gonna start to see some charring. So this is gonna add a ton of flavor to the veggies. Now you're gonna go in with your minced garlic. Mix that in there until you start to smell the aroma of the garlic. Now set those to the side, and you're gonna add 5 slices of center cut bacon cut into pieces. If you watch my grocery haul video, you know center cut bacon is the GOAT. The macros are insane for bacon. I don't know why anybody is eating turkey bacon anymore. Add those on there and spread them out the best you can. Don't move them. Just let them cook until they start to get a little bit of brown. And then you're going to mix everything together. The center cut bacon is super lean, but it does give off a little bit of oil because it has about 3.5 grams of fat per serving. So that flavor is now going to mend with the veggies along with the charring and the chicken bone broth. And now you're going to move the veggies to the side, and you're going to make a nice little landing spot in the middle for the 96.4 lean ground beef. You're going to flatten it up the best you can. I actually broke it up more than I should have. I should have just flattened it. But nonetheless, you want to get a nice browning on that side. Cook on that side for about 3 to 4 minutes. And I jumped the gun on this one. I didn't get as much browning as I would have liked. So in making this, if you want to maximize the flavor and let the Maillard reaction happen a little bit more so you get a little bit more browning. Regardless, this tastes insane. So now you're going to add 25 grams of tomato paste, 60 grams of your chicken bone broth. You can use beef bone broth as well. Add a big pinch of Italian seasoning, then 240 grams of your low-fat marinara. And now you're going to put your pan on about a 3 out of 10 heat, and you're going to mix this all together. You want to bring it to a nice simmer. You'll know it's done whenever it looks like this. And now your crispy potatoes should be done in the air fryer. These things look insane and took 0 brain cells to make. Add them on top and spread them out evenly. Add 84 grams of your part skin mozzarella. Add to the oven on broil until the cheese is golden. And now you have this insane meal. 1/4 of this pan is only 451 calories, 40 grams of protein. It's a lot of food. Enjoy, my friends.
Got taco sliders. 10 out of 10.
And last, but definitely not least, we have the taco sliders. Football season has passed, so the slider game just isn't as popular, but we have summer on the way. We have March Madness. This is a great, easy recipe for any party. And don't get me started on the low-cal avocado lime sauce. Mind-blowing. So let's start with that. And this sauce will suck if you do not know how to pick the right avocado. So I think of 3 things when I'm picking a great avocado. First off, I think of the shape. You want the shape that you think of any avocado. Not round, not super long, but just that normal avocado shape. And then number 2 is color. You do not want it bright green, but you also don't want it black. You want it more of a faint green, but more black than green, just like the color you see here. And then lastly, when you have the avocado in your hand, you're going to press it with your thumb. Lightly press because you don't want to dent the avocado, but it shouldn't bounce back. It shouldn't feel hard. It should feel like when you press it, that indentation stays there, but it's not mushy. You have to kind of put a little bit of force in there. Everybody that knows me knows I am the avocado whisperer. And then you're going to add 113 grams of your plain non-fat Greek yogurt. This is going to add protein, creaminess, and a little bit more volume. Then 4 cloves of minced garlic. And then how do you pick a great lime? For me, I want a bright green color. I don't want it too hard. I want it to be the shape of what a lime is supposed to be. You're going to add the juice from both halves of the lime. Then about a palm of sea salt, just the amount you see in my hand. 113 grams of water. And then a big old handful, about 15 grams of fresh cilantro. Leaves and stems and all. Add the top to your blender, add to your blender, and you're just going to blend until smooth. You're going to see when I start blending here, it looks like a greens juice. first, but then over time, you'll see the little specks of the cilantro eventually blend into a smooth green sauce. Add to the fridge and let's move on to the next step. You're gonna preheat your pan on a 7 out of 10 heat, and you're gonna add 2 pounds of 964 lean ground beef to your pan. Remember, fresh out of the fridge, you want it cold, and you're gonna press into the pan and let it cook on that side for 3 to 4 minutes. You guys know the drill by now. We want that Maillard reaction. And then once that crust is formed, I broke mine into 4 pieces just to make the flipping that much easier. Then you're gonna let them cook on that side for another 2 to 3 minutes, and then break them up into small pieces. Now you're gonna add 2 packets of taco seasoning, mix that in there, add about 80 grams of beef bone broth. Should be looking pretty nice. Now we're gonna take it to the next level. 4 cheese wedges. I just got the HEB brand this time instead of Laughing Cow, but I honestly like the Laughing Cow better than these. Then you're gonna add your nutritional yeast, gives that cheesy flavor with some extra protein. Then 56 grams of your 2% Mexican cheese, 80 more grams of your bone broth, and you're gonna mix that all together. You're gonna see I'm chopping first, trying to get the cheese wedges to break up, so then they mix evenly. And then as you're mixing, you're gonna drop the pan to about a 4 out of 10 heat, and it's really gonna start to thicken up. So throughout this whole process, if it looks a little too dry, just splash in some more bone broth, and then you'll know you're done whenever you achieve this consistency right here. Perfection. You'd have zero idea that this is made with 964 lean ground beef. So now it's time to build the sliders. I'm a big sliders guy. I love making sliders. Most brands have similar macros. I love the King's Hawaiian ones. So take them out of the package, remove the sides. Just make sure throughout this whole process, you're a little gentle taking off these little guardrail looking things because some of the bread might get stuck to it. So you just don't want to rip. Now you're going to lay them flat and use your bread knife to cut them in half. Now you're going to add your whole batch of your cheesy taco ground beef. Not even the tiniest little morsel of dry ground beef to be seen. Then you're going to add 42 more grams of your 2% Mexican cheese. Now carefully add the top buns. And what I like to do, you don't have to do this, is I like to cut them before I add them to the oven. This just makes it easier to pull each one of the sliders, but then also the little crevices around each of the slider rolls will crisp up a little bit. If you don't cut them, they'll just stay soft. And then whenever you pull each slider, the bread will pull and it just becomes more of a mess. Spread the tops with avocado oil, sprinkle a little bit of garlic powder on top, add to the oven on 400 degrees Fahrenheit till golden. You can loosely wrap the top with an aluminum foil if you don't want the tops to get as golden as this. Now pull out your slider, dip in that avocado lime sauce, and then it's time to enjoy, my friends.
Make sure to go get your ground beef blueprint. You can scan the QR code somewhere on the screen and check your comments on the previous videos. I replied to your comment if you want, and I'm gonna do it again. I want you guys to make these recipes, so I wanna be able to pay it forward for you guys to be able to have the appliances necessary in your kitchen to make these recipes. So, my last video I mentioned an air fryer, Ninja Creamy. Rules are simple. I just want you to comment your key takeaway from this video. What did you learn? What are you going to apply to your future recipes, and which recipe from this video are you gonna make first? Very simple. You leave that comment. You can even say some nice things about some of the recipes you've made of mine. And that's your entry. So I just wanna say thank you again for watching these videos. Oh shoot, one thing. If you wanna see my best bang for my buck, unlocks 25 of my recipes grocery haul, definitely check out this video. It's one of my favorite videos I've ever created. The comment section is unbelievable. Everybody got a lot of value from the video. So I highly recommend check out this video. I love you guys. I appreciate you guys, and I'll see you guys in the next video.